Mr. Speaker, I realise that the title of this bill is quite boring, the Radiation Safety Bill, but that must have been the most tired, weary, boring speech an acting minister has made in this House, and it was a real disappointment that Mr. Bridges couldn't lift himself up and be as excited as we are about the passage of this bill. Those of us who have been on the Health Select Committee, that have heard the submissions and have come into this House and supported a major change that is needed in this area. You see, it's 50 years since this original bill was put in place, and so we are changing a law that is 50 years old. And so the members of the Select Committee, no, I wasn't there, but I have to say that the member looks like he might have been there. He could well have been there. But 50 years old, this legislation, and we in the Select Committee have worked very hard to get it through our committee and into the House. In fact, the genesis of this bill was not 50 years ago when I wasn't there, but it was in fact when I was Minister of Health that I started the review of this bill. But a very good interjection comes from the Minister, because it is 11 years since I was the Minister of Health, although on a daily basis you would think I still had the job. If you listen to Dr. Coleman, everything that ever happens in health is my responsibility. But I have to say, 11 years ago, when I was Minister of Health, I started the review. So now, in their 8th year of government, we've finally got to pass the legislation. So congratulations to us all. Busy committee, Mr. Bishop, busy committee. Give credit where it's due. So this Radiation Safety Bill replaces the Radiation Protection Act 1965, and the purpose of the Act is for us to meet our international obligations relating to radiation protection, radiation safety and security, and nuclear non-proliferation under a range of international treaties. So we acknowledge that we needed to update this legislation, and we needed to keep pace with technological changes, because think back to 1965, those of you who can think back that far, not Mr. Bridges, he wasn't even in short pants then, but in 1965, I think I might have just left school, Mr. Bridges, and I can remember the first time I did see television, but think forward 50 years on and you will see there have been a lot of technological changes, and we needed to make changes in this legislation. I think the bill has got the wrong name, though, and I did put forward during the committee stages, Mr. Speaker, a supplementary order paper which I know my good friends opposite on the Health Committee would have loved to have supported, because I think it should have been called the Ionising Radiation Safety Act. Now, I wonder whether Mr. Bridges, who made the speech, knows the difference between ionising radiation and non-ionising radiation, because I am happy to give a little lecture on what the difference is and why this bill should have been called Ionising Radiation Protection Bill Act, because people don't know the difference, and we found that out at the Select Committee when we got submissions from people who thought they were talking about non-ionising radiation. So for Mr. Bridges, who said he knows but he's given no indication in his speech he understood at all, ionising radiation is high-energy radiation and includes X-rays, alpha particles, beta particles and gamma rays that have ionising capability. Non-ionising radiation is electromagnetic energy and includes laser light, electromagnetic field and radio waves, cell towers, Wi-Fi, microwave ovens, ultraviolet tanning machines and power lines. So, Mr. Bridges, they are non-ionising, and unfortunately, some of those that came to our committee thought that we should be, in fact, legislating for them. They are regulated under standards, not under legislation. So I think it was important that, in fact, we gave this bill the title so there was no misunderstanding about what we were doing. And I know, given the opportunity, that Mr O'Connor and others on the committee would have voted for my supplementary order paper, but the Minister and the Chair, who never said a word during the committee stages, didn't say a peep, didn't support my supplementary order paper. So, no, it wasn't bull dust, Mr Bishop. It certainly was not. And one of the reasons I thought it was important that we did give it the proper title is because the World Health Organisation, with regards to the public health risk posed by non-ionising radiation, have said that the evidence is very weak and that, in fact, if you comply with current limits, it has no
I'm sorry to interrupt the honourable member. The time has come for me to leave the chair. This debate is interrupted and set down for resumption next sitting day. And members, the House stands adjourned until 2 p.m. tomorrow. Good evening.